For 24, 30 points, and 19 rebounds. Marv Albert with Azar, Mike Fratello, Steve Kerr, Craig Sager, ready to go. A matchup of the #1 team offensively, the Sacramento Kings, who are averaging better than 106 points per game, and the #1 team defensively, the San Antonio Spurs. San Antonio at 30-17, Sacramento 31-12. Sacramento with the best record in the Western Conference. And here comes San Antonio. Tony Parker playing the point. Parker trying to get it to Duncan, and back comes Bibby. So the Spurs will get it back.
You can see the tempo and pace of this game set already. Start out with a quick side pick and roll, then you get 2 transitions after that by the teams. And
Steve, San Antonio, a team that is still trying to feel its way. It's been up and down all season long, although recently things have turned. They have won 21 of their last 28 games. Tim Duncan able to knock it down.
Well, they have been inconsistent, but that guy right there has been solid all year. He's been solid his whole career. The guy is just night in and night out, just nails. He's really the entire concept of this team is based on Tim Duncan.
Nice pass from Bibby, and Divac is fouled. Steve Javy, the outside official, with the indication it's on Nesterovic. Sacramento at 31-12. Right on top in the West, half game in front of Minnesota. Minnesota lost in the late game last night at Golden State. San Antonio 30-17 in the #3 slot, and they are 3 games back. There is Rick Adelman, head coach of the Sacramento Kings. Kings 21-3 at home. That's the best home record in the league. Lonnie Divac just did get a piece of that rim.
There are so many great things you could look at as far as the matchups between these two teams. Not only are the records very close, but statistically, you're talking about the opposite ends of the spectrum. The best defensive team in the league in so many categories, San Antonio, against the best offensive team. Sacramento, we saw a great move that time to the baseline by Tim Duncan.
Doug Christie 0 for 7 last night of the game against the Rockets. Kings beating the Rockets in Houston 99-94. Stojakovic, who has had difficulties against Bruce Bowen. Bowen did a nice job in the 3 games that Stojakovic played against San Antonio last season.
Well, he frequently has trouble against defenders who really get up into his body. What a move by Parker.
What a gorgeous spinning move by Tony Parker, and the Spurs with a 6-1 lead. Bibby trying to go to the crossover. You saw Ginobili over to help out. Here is Bibby, rebounded by Ginobili. Greg Popovich telling us earlier that he wants to get the ball down court in a hurry. Sacramento playing back-to-back, and he feels obviously one of their weaknesses, talking of the Sacramento Kings, as Nesterovic gets the roll, is that they do not get down court.
This is a team that is not very good defensively, frankly. And part of the reason is that they give up a lot of easy hoops.
Stojakovic, and the Spurs now lead 8-3.
Well, the interesting thing is that you have the #1 and #2 teams in the league in point differential. That means they score at one end and they stop you at the other end. So I think, as you see the jump shot that time by Tony Parker, I think maybe Sacramento's defense is a little bit underrated.
Well, 25th in the league statistically, but maybe Mike knows something that we don't.
Numbers can be deceiving.
Here's Bibby from downtown. He had 3 last night. San Antonio 5 for 5 from the field here at the start. See Parker pull it back. He went to the crossover. And last touched by the Kings.
This offensive juggernaut of the Kings. Look at that. First in points, field goal percentage, 3-point field goal percentage, and then there's the defense of the Spurs. They give up the fewest points. Second best at keeping people shooting the ball poorly. How about that? First in fewest assists. So it's a terrific team defense that the Spurs have.
What a fun matchup, too. Just 2 teams that play a totally different style.
Christie. Nesterovic with the outlet. Here's Parker in the open floor, working his way on Christie. Duncan on the follow.
Looked to me like Tony Parker was pulled to the ground that time with no foul call.
And how about the pace that Tony Parker is setting? Popovich talked about pushing the ball back in Sacramento, but I didn't expect this.
Spurs 12 and the Kings 3, and we are just underway here in San Antonio. Duncan with a beautiful backdoor. Ginobili. Manu Ginobili from Tim Duncan, and Rick Alleman wants to talk.
Well, get the 5th game of a 6-game road trip.
10 from the field here at the start. Sacramento just 1 for 8.
And I think part of the reason you push the ball offensively if you're the Spurs is Sacramento can get out of position when they're in disarray a little bit. They're much better in a standstill half-court game.
Brad Miller. Brad Miller has played so well in the absence of Chris Webber. Webber still recovering from surgery on his left knee. Tore up the knee last May during Game 2 of the Western Conference semifinal series against Dallas. We asked Rick Alleman when do they expect Chris Webber to return, as Duncan again is able to go last up the step. He's given the Spurs a 16-5 advantage. And Alleman says they're not sure when Chris Webber will return.
It's been a long time. You know, normally you think arthroscopic surgery, a guy will be back in 6 or 8 weeks.
If we're going to talk about free agents, there's the foul in the backcourt. We want to talk about free agents that have been signed that really have had an impact on their team. Gary Payton, obviously, with the Lakers, has been very, very good. Lamar Odom in Miami has been very, but how about Randle being picked up here? I mean, what a major catch for them in the free agent market.
Rick Alleman telling us that he was surprised that Miller is that efficient as a passer. He has fit right in to the Sacramento King alignment. Here's Parker off the fake. And back comes Stojakovic. Stojakovic able to get down low. Parker got caught and is called for the foul. For more on Chris Webber, let's check in with Craig Sager.
Hey, Marv, here's an update on Chris Webber. He did practice with the team before they went on this current road trip. And according to Mike Bibby, he looks as if he can play now. However, Dr. James Andrews, who performed the surgery, also met with Chris Webber. They're being overly cautious. However, when the team gets back on Sunday, they will have 3 games in 9 days. They all are at home. He will practice with the team exclusively in full contact on Monday. They hope then he will return right after the All-Star break.
All right, Craig, Spurs have a 16-7 lead. Duncan off the double team and rebounded by Stojakovic.
Pretty amazing how well this team has played, guys, without Chris Webber. But ultimately, the playoffs, they've got to have him. He's their best player. He's a low-post force. He's a good defender in the lane. It'll be very interesting to see this club once they do get him back.
Oh, beautiful pass from Divac, setting it up for Peja Stojakovic. Well, they're 31-12 without Webber and with 5 players who were not on the roster last year.
So that tells you that, one, the staff has done a pretty good job of putting the new pieces together, as Tony Parker almost keeps it in the ballpark. A little bit too long by Tim Duncan as he throws out of the double team. The staff has done a good job taking the new pieces and incorporating them. It tells you that their core guys, their main guys, are really good players.
And San Antonio has also dramatically restructured its team as Bibby knocks down a 3, so he's hit his last 2. The Kings started out 1 for 8. They've hit their last 4 shots, and Greg Popovich takes a timeout. Spurs 16 and the Kings 12 with 5:26 remaining in this first quarter. February the 15th from Staples in Los Angeles. Spurs with a 16-12 lead on the Kings.
East team better have their presses and traps in, because that's a tiny East team against that big Western Conference team.
Do you think they really play any defense in the All-Star games, are?
You know, it depends how you approach it, Steve.
Brad Miller over Tim Duncan. And the Kings are on fire. A 9-0 run. They've hit their last 5 shots. And despite that excellent start by San Antonio, it's a 2-point game. San Antonio with a victory over the Knicks in New York on Tuesday, a 77-67 game that stopped the two-game losing streak. The Knicks with a season-low 67 points. How about a season-high 26 turnovers committed by the Spurs?
That's 77 points, and you still win by 10. I guess the Knicks played really well that night, huh?
It was a fine all-around ball game. All right, here's Devos. And the game is tied at 16.
How about the feed from Brad Miller? Averaging almost 5 assists a game this year. Unbelievable. I don't think anybody knew what kind of passer this guy is.
Well, that ends the 11-0 run by the Kings. So the Spurs up by 2.
You know, Marv, a year ago when they won the World Championship, they were 23rd in the league in turnovers, San Antonio. This year, almost exactly the same statistical number, but they're 17th in the league, so they've improved. That must mean the rest of the league has gotten worse.
Foul is called on Parker. That is his second. And now Charlie Ward will check in for San Antonio.
Good pickup for the San Antonio Spurs. They lost Speedy Claxton, who gave them penetration, ability to make a pass, create situations. Charlie Ward gives them something different. A toughness, a veteran presence, and most importantly, a three-point shot maker. Since Steve Kerr's not there any longer, they've got a guy to step in and fill his shoes to spread the defense out.
Charlie Ward in his 12th game as a Spur. Spent 9.5 seasons with the New York Knicks, involved in that big trade with Phoenix involving Stephon Marbury. And then Ward was waived. Shot clock running down. It's down to 1. Ward. And Ward signed as a free agent by the Spurs. Stojakovic is fouled by Bowen.
When Charlie took number 17, I was thinking maybe he was paying homage to one of the number 17 wearers of recent past, Mario Elie perhaps, John Barry, but no, of course, it's his Heisman Trophy winner number from Florida State as a quarterback.
He did wear number 21 with the Knicks, but there's a fellow by the name of Tim Duncan with that number.
Surprised Tim didn't give him 21.
Here's Miller. Ginobili stripped and lost it. So the ball back to Sacramento.
Excellent play by Bibby defensively, who's not known for his defense. He shut down Steve Francis last night. Francis with a tough time. These Arizona guys can play some defense, Mike.
And obviously they must like reading about it because he's working real hard tonight at the defensive end. He got the headlines for it from last night.
And Bibby now has 7 points. So the game is tied at 18. Ward and Ginobili in the backcourt with Bowen, Nesterovic, and Duncan up front. Here's Bowen. Yes. That's his first field goal.
It's a shot that Bowen did not have 2 years ago. He's put in so much time and effort on that little pull-up.
Nesterovic with the rejection kept alive by Devos. Shot clock down to 6. Christie. So Doug Christie with his first field goal. He was 0 for 7 last night and missed his first 2 here tonight.
What makes Sacramento so good at the offensive end is not only do they have obviously outstanding basketball players, good talent. The offensive system they run is beautiful to watch, okay, but they have people that see the plays developing and then can make the passes. They're not afraid to throw it from corner to corner. And let's mention one more thing. A year ago, when this team was 3rd in scoring, 101 points per game, this man, Pete Carrill, was not on the bench. He had kind of taken himself out of the mix, said he would just be an advisor. They brought him back this year, put him back on the bench. The offense now up to almost 105 points per game. This offense is different when Pete Carrill is there every day with it.
Hall of Famer Pete Carrill, proponent of the Princeton offense. Ito Turkoglu, one-time Sacramento King, has checked in, as has Robert Horry. Nice pass from Turkoglu to set it up for Duncan. So Tim Duncan has 10 points.
Beautiful feed by Turkoglu, something that's easier to do when you're 6'8" or 6'9" on the perimeter, like Hedo is.
And the foul on Bowen.
You'll see that Duncan is fronted in the middle of the lane, so at 6'10", Turkoglu simply keeps the ball up above his head and then throws it over the top of the defender, who's much shorter than Tim Duncan.
San Antonio over the foul limit, so Peja Stojakovic, a 92% free throw shooter, leading the NBA, is on the line. Getting back to Hedo Turkoglu, he sat out the last 2 games because of a bruised left thigh. At one point he was in the starting lineup, and he shed, what, about 20 pounds?
He did, and he's shed a lot of those pounds since the beginning of training camp, because he looked heavy when he first came to San Antonio, but played extremely well the last month especially. And of course tonight he's going against his ex-mates in Sacramento, so a little extra emotion for Turkoglu.
Darius Sungaila, rookie from Wake Forest, who's been getting the playing time, is checked in for Sacramento. Under a minute remaining in this opening quarter. Good play by Stojakovic, recovered by Duncan. Shot clock is down to 4. Here's Duncan, has to force. Back comes Bibby. And Bibby pulls it back. Bobby Jackson, who just came on. Stojakovic checking the clock, going against his former teammate. Pops it up and draws the foul.
We're talking with Rick Adelman before the game. We asked him, why is Stojakovic so much better? He was already a great player. He said one of the things he's doing is getting to the basket more, getting to the foul line more, and shooting so much better off the dribble. So as if it wasn't enough trouble to guard the guy out of the three-point line, now he's got that extra dimension.
Let's go back a couple weeks. Remember Larry Bird made a statement in the papers that if he only concentrated more because he's such a great shooter, you see his ability to face up and then get that quick step on you to gain the advantage before he gets fouled. Bird mentioned with the way he shoots the ball with his size, the thing he would concentrate on now is rebounding and then a little turnaround fadeaway jumper from the post area. Well, after the statement was made, interestingly, Stojakovic's rebound numbers went up almost 2 per game after the statement was made. A little bit of concentration, a little credit to Larry Bird.
But did he shoot the ball down on the post with that little fadeaway?
I didn't chart how many fadeaways he shot from the low post. I'm sorry.
Sacramento's taken a 2-point lead. There's a 4-second differential between the game clock and the shot clock. Nice pass. Brown not able to hit. Final seconds of this first quarter. Here's Stojakovic for 3 with 9/10 of a second remaining in the first. Stojakovic from way downtown. Turkoglu just off the mark. Stojakovic leading the way, 3 of 4 from the field. 11 points. Sacramento got off to the slow start, but they turn it around. And after one here in the Alamo City. For you, so the Czar would like your per diem, your meal allowance.
Well, I was thinking about inviting him over for dinner instead, but I guess I'd much rather just give him my meal money.
I kind of thought I would get an invitation, to be honest.
He probably got lost in the mail.
I enjoyed dinner last night. Second quarter is underway. San Antonio is led by as many as 11. The Kings now up 27-22. Shot clock running down. Here's Brown. And kept alive.
Brown did a good job of just getting a shot off with the clock run all the way down that time. They're double teaming Duncan from different areas on the floor as he makes his move.
Duncan with the tip. 12 points for Tim Duncan.
One of the things Sacramento has done the last couple of years with Duncan is they wait for him to put the ball on the floor, then come double, and then they try to rotate quickly to shooters. They don't feel like, other than Manu Ginobili, that the Spurs perimeter guys can make plays off of that defensive rotation.
Bobby Jackson playing his own long rebound.
This is a time that Sacramento has struggled on a regular basis this season when Rick Adelman starts to sub and brings out that second unit on the floor because they're different kinds of players than the first unit is. Bobby Jackson is a guy who just gets the ball and kind of makes things happen as opposed to staying with the options, running through the offense, dunking off the glass, gets fouled, goes to the line, tries to complete the three-point play.
A signature Tim Duncan basket, able to bank it home, fouled by Brad Miller.
This is vintage Duncan here, just pulling the ball underneath the defender's arms, and then it's almost impossible not to foul him.
Let's check in with Craig Sager.
Well, Barbara, today's shoot-around, Greg Popovich stressed the importance of playing well against Sacramento. He feels there are five top teams in the West, 4 big rivals, and they have yet to beat any of them this year. They've played, this is the first meeting with Sacramento. They're 0-1 against Minnesota. They're 0-3 against the Lakers, 0-2 against Dallas. He said we were not as bad as the 9-10 start. We were not as good as that 13-game winning streak, but we certainly are not the defending champions because this is not the team we had last year. We are in desperate need of a win against one of the top teams.
All right, Craig, we saw Darius Sangaila able to hit on his first field goal attempt. Here is Hito Turkoglu. And a loose ball foul. Anthony Peeler, who just came on, was reaching in. Well, the first 19 games, San Antonio 9-10. They have won 21 of their last 28. They're in a very difficult stretch, as Greg indicated. And this a similar scenario to a year ago. They got up to the slow start and then came on.
And really, if you look at the Spurs the last 5 or 6 years, they've been traditionally slow starting, but they pick it up as the year goes along, thanks to this guy who is also a slow starter, but usually finishes the season so strongly, and he's been the MVP 2 years in a row. I would expect another strong finish from him this season.
One thing Sacramento did not need to happen is Peeler misses the jumper. They did not want to get early fouls on Miller. They don't feel that Divac can play against him early in the game. If they need him at the end, then they feel Vlade with his veteran experience and stuff to be a factor. They don't want to put Vlade on him early on, so now you go to Massenberg versus Duncan, and you see what happens.
Duncan has scored the last 10 points for San Antonio. So the Kings now lead 31-30. Bobby Jackson, Anthony Peeler in the backcourt. Tony Massenberg has come on as Peeler. Massenberg with Stojakovic up front and Sangaila off the turnover. Back comes Charlie Ward. Ward and Devin Brown at the guards. Robert Horry up front with Hito Turkoglu and Tim Duncan. This is Brown. See Jackson digging in. Shot clock down to 6. Brown. Brown got picked off, able to recover as he defends on Jackson. Now Ward off the mismatch. Stojakovic gave it up. Nice move. Darius Sangaila, rookie from Wake Forest by way of Lithuania. In fact, played in Moscow last season. Was a second-round pick of the Boston Celtics originally and then was traded to the Kings. Here's Turkoglu. Horry missed the tip. And rescued by Stojakovic. Jackson splitting his way through. Here's Jackson. Massenberg. Tony Massenberg, who was attending to personal matters, missed the game last night against Houston, which angered Kings coach Rick Adelman. Apparently Massenberg told the trainer, but Adelman was not pleased. Said they talked about it prior to tonight's game. And here's Massenberg back in the lineup.
All right. One is sitting with you at the table here. The other is Robert Horry.
Robert Horry and Steve Kerr.
No, Marv, I meant.
No.
Oh, yeah, it is me. That's right.
He's called every final, but it is Robert Horry, Steve Kerr. It just, when I was thinking about that in the room, I said, that is amazing.
It is, but let me ask you something. Did you not have anything good for tonight? So you did it in the form of a quiz? There were no idle thoughts?
When I gave you 3 thoughts at a time, it was too much. I just centered in on one concentrated thing tonight.
And I'm counting on Robert Horry to keep the streak alive. So it's up to him.
It's amazing when you think about it. 10 straight, could be 11 again this year.
Yeah.
And if you come back next year, you never know where you wind up.
So that's it.
That's it. One shot.
Sacramento 35, San Antonio 30, just under 8 remaining in the first half. Ginobili not able to hang on, and the ball back to the Kings. This is game 5 of a 6-game road trip for Sacramento. They split the previous 4, winning at Cleveland, and last night in Houston they lost at Memphis and Dallas. So this completes the Kings trip through the Texas Triangle. Singala taking it to the rim.
Wow. I haven't had a chance to see this young guy play yet, but he's pretty impressive.
Sacramento down by as many as 11, now up by 7. Here's Ginobili kicking it out. Turgler. And he'd go 0 for 4 against his former team.
Rick Adelman's got to be thrilled with the bench production that he's gotten. He was very concerned before the game about the second unit coming in the second quarter and whether they would be able to sustain the offensive surge that the starters always show, and they have done just that here in the second quarter.
Jackson getting it down low, and a foul. It is on Ginobili.
Mark, you sound a little surprised when you see Sungaya make those kinds of moves. He was 4 for 4 with 8 points in his performance last night.
That was Steve.
Well, Steve was surprised.
Right.
I'm sorry.
I was surprised, and I noticed you feverishly looking in your notes to see what his numbers were last night, just in the hope that you could actually nail me on that.
Exactly.
I'd rather be accurate than be wrong on a hunch, okay?
Turgler protecting the dribble on the double team. Malik Rose checking in for the first time for San Antonio. Here is Ginobili. Yes! And the foul. Manu Ginobili. He's made it back from lower back problem. Spent some time on the injured list with a beautiful move, and he is hacked.
This kid has added an athleticism that was missing from this Spurs roster a couple of years ago. Now they've got a slashing guy who can get to the rim and finish.
Foul on Sungala. San Antonio at the bottom in free throw shooting. They are at 67%. That's the worst in the NBA. Although in their last game against the Knicks, they were on fire at 75. 21 of 28. Sungala gives it up. Anthony Peeler, that's a 2-pointer, had foot on the line, so the Kings lead at 39-33, and Sacramento now 16 of 30. They're shooting 53%. This was after the poor start. Parker from downtown, yes. Tony Parker, 4 of 7 here in the first half. 3-point, Kings lead. Jackson, Christie, and Peeler in a 3-guard set. Sungala is up front with Massenberg. Sungala off a ball fake. It counts, and the foul. What a change of pace by Darius Sungala.
Plus, what an aggressive move to the basket. I mean, this young man wanted to throw this thing down, tried as hard as he could to get it in the rim, takes it right over to Sturridge, finishes, and gets fouled. We see it right here, the ability to take the ball, look at the rim, and finish, banking it off the glass. That motion offense of Sacramento, his ability to avoid the defender, switch it over to the right hand, and then try to dunk it, take it over the top of the Sturridge, finish, and go to the foul line. In just 7 minutes of playing time, Darius Sungala, 4 for 4, 8 points.
I was working with my 5-year-old son on arithmetic last night, so it really came in handy when I had to add 4 and 4 together.
Well, the great thing is that it didn't go past 10.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
You count
if he makes 3 more, forget it. You take charge, okay?
And Darius Sungala at the line looking to complete a 3-point play. Mentioned earlier, originally a second-round pick of the Boston Celtics, traded to the Kings for 2 second-round selections. Played in Moscow last season. So the Kings now lead 42-36, 5.5 remaining in this first half.
How How about Sacramento shooting 55% against the team that has the #1 field goal percentage in the NBA?
Holding foul on Christie. That is his first. Let's go over to Craig.
Well, Marv, Robert Horry felt a tingling in the lower part of his back, went to the locker room. Dr. Paul Sines, the team physician, worked on him. They seem to think that he's all right. He's now returned to the bench and should be able to play.
Duncan tried the look away. Healer. Ginobili had a notion with Turkoglu breaking. That's now 24-20. They've won 3 straight. Jason Kidd, 33 points, 10 rebounds, and 8 assists. Sangala with the steal. Here comes Jackson putting the speed on. Bobby Jackson taking it all the way. Sacramento up by 8, so we have had a 19-point swing in this game. The Kings were down by 11.
I think the Spurs defense looks almost stunned by what Sacramento has done to them. Most of it in the half court. That was their first fast break bucket.
Parker lost it. Jackson, yes. Bobby Jackson.
Steve, I just want to remind you, Steve, this is that Sacramento defense that's producing all these turnovers and has held San Antonio just 36 points with 4 minutes remaining here in the first half. The defense that you said was at the bottom of the league.
Well, 26 in field goal percentage defense, but they do create some turnovers, and when they do, they've got so many guys who can shoot the ball. And that's what's, I think, most impressive about this group. It's not a team that scores around the hoop, especially without Chris Webber. If you look at their roster, who's a post-up guy? Vlade, not really anymore. Brad Miller is not a post-up guy, and yet here they come out and they lead the NBA in scoring. They're scoring at will against the #1 defensive team. These guys can all shoot the ball. They've got great skills, and they run a great scheme thanks to their coach.
See the strip right there by Sangala, then it turns it into a fast break, a one-on-one or one-on-4 break, whatever you want to call it for Bobby Jackson. He just puts his head down and keeps going.
7 turnovers committed now by San Antonio. Another bad pass. That's number 8. They had 26 the other night against the Knicks, a season high. Jackson played by Turkoglu. Jackson with a rainbow. Wild shot.
Whoa. Did you see Rick Adelman's reaction on the sideline? He's furious.
Here's Turkoglu for 3. Yes. A catch and shoot. 3-pointer by the one-time Sacramento King, Hedo Turkoglu. So the Kings now lead at 46-39, coming up on 3 minutes remaining in this first half. Massenberg feeling for Nesterovic. They clear it out. Massenberg. Jackson with a good play. Although Parker thought he was pushed. And the Kings try to reset. Massenberg comes up high to set a pick. Christie. Played tough by Turkoglu. And a foul. Well, apparently a 3-second violation. So the ball back to San Antonio with 2:53 to go in this first half. Kings up by 7. Marv Albert, Lazar, Mike Fratello, Steve Kerr, Craig Sager. We have 2:53 to go in this first half. And Sacramento up by 7 points. San Antonio has turned it over 4 times the last 5 possessions. And there is another turnover. Offensive foul. It is on Ginobili. That's his second.
Nice job of guessing by Michael Bibby, or reading, anticipating what was going to happen. He thought that Ginobili would run that little slice cut off of Duncan, jumped back in there, got in front of him. Ginobili ran right over the top of him.
Got to drive you nuts as a coach, too. Greg Popovich gets the timeout. He has the possession. He needs a basket, sets up a play, and then boom. It's gone.
So Ginobili take a seat, replaced by Bruce Bowen. Mike Bibby has returned, as has Vlade Divac, Brad Miller, Peja Stojakovic. Bench played well. Rick Adelman had the luxury of resting his starters. And Christie serving up a facial. Sacramento. Sacramento with 13 points off the 9 San Antonio turnovers. Parker had nowhere to go. Rebounded by Divac. Just under 2 to go in the half. Bibby. San Antonio opened up overwhelming Sacramento. They had an 11-point lead. Turkoglu, nice setup from Nesterovic, but Turkoglu not able to finish.
They've struggled to score at times all season long, and sometimes this is a defensive team, but they don't create a lot of turnovers, and as a result, they don't get easy baskets.
A rejection and a foul. The Spurs argue the call by Ron Olesiak on Tim Duncan. That's his first.
Well, from our angle here, it looked to me like it was ball. It looked like the right hand was on the ball. After the block, then Duncan's follow-through does land on his forearm. But initially, that's ball. He blocks ball.
So, Peja Stojakovic, the NBA's best free throw shooter, at 92% at the line. He's opened up a 10-point lead, and he is 5 for 5 from the line. Biggest lead of the game for the Kings. San Antonio at 30-17. They have lost 2 of their last 3 games. Here's Nesterovic. Good job on the box out by Stojakovic. The Kings at 31-12. A Sacramento team that is playing game 5 of a very difficult 6-game road trip. Shot clock down to 5. Here is Divac.
Sometimes Vlade looks like he just about can make it up and down the court. Maybe one more trip. He's that veteran guy. A little backdoor move by Tony Parker, who gets the pass but cannot convert. And then Vlade gets a rebound, gets it out, and then he struggles to get over the half-court line again. Just enough gas left in that tank to get down one more time, maybe.
But he's so crafty that he might play another 3 or 4 years in the league.
He's like Jim Brown when he used to get up off the football field, right? You thought it was his last run of the day.
Foul on Turkoglu, and San Antonio over the limit.
You're going to bring up Jim Brown. I wasn't even born when Jim Brown was playing.
It's for the people that happen to follow 2 sports.
Our elder citizens like yourself who are watching.
Steve, you must have a sense of history here.
Well, I know that Jim Brown
man.
was the greatest running back of all time, but I don't remember him getting off the ground slowly.
After he'd be whacked around by Sam Huff.
It looked like he was broken in 2. Just would struggle to get back to the huddle and then go for 40 on the next run.
Our production staff pointing out they do not have footage of Jim Brown. Bizarre. Wanted some illustration.
Like you thought he was going to know who Sam Huff was, all right? Jim Brown, you know, but you threw Sam Huff.
I'm a football fan. I know all these names. It's just that I don't remember the details of how they got him off the ground after the play.
The Kings lead 52-39 as we come up on 10 seconds remaining in the half. And Tony Parker will work it down, looking over at his head coach, Greg Popovich, who is not pleased with what he has seen in this first half. Turkoglu for 3. 1.5 seconds, and they'll run it out. San Antonio opened up with a 16-5 burst. Since then, they've been outscored by Sacramento 47-26. And it's a 10-point Kings lead. Turnover game against the Knicks. turnover game against the Knicks, although in a victory the other night. Let's check in with Craig Sager. Craig?
Well, at halftime, Greg Popovich told his team, hey, Sacramento is a good offensive team, a great shooting team, but we're doing a terrible job of defending them. We have to do much better. He also was totally lit up. We'll see probably a different substitution pattern in the second half. Look for perhaps Malik Rose to get in there. He only played 2 minutes in the first half.
Nesterovic on the follow is fouled. Christie picks up his second.
Marv, I think Craig Sager just touched on something very important, the Malik Rose factor, only 2 minutes. I mean, I've watched the last couple seasons. It seems like he always goes through a period of time where I don't know what he does in practice. I'm not there every day, but for some reason he falls out of favor with the coaching staff. They cut his minutes back, and then he, like, you know, re-emerges all of a sudden, becomes a major contributor. I mean, Steve, you were with him up close. I mean, what goes on here?
Well, he and Pop have butted heads a little bit. Malik's a very emotional guy, and Pop has taken offense to that at times, but he's always found himself back in the lineup come crunch time because of his energy and his ability to get offensive putbacks, and I think that's exactly why they have to play him now. He's an 82% foul shooter, gets to the line a lot, and this is the worst foul shooting team in the league. They could really use his energy.
Shot clock to 1, Stojakovic, and it's a 24-second violation. Malik Rose also bothered recently by a sprained left ankle, although the Spurs have made it clear that is not the reason that his minutes have diminished. For more on Malik, let's go back to Craig.
Well, Marv, Coach Popovich says he has 4 bigs. That, of course, would be Duncan, Nesterovic, Robert Horry, and Malik Rose. He likes to play 3 of them with extensive minutes. He said Robert Horry basically has just beaten out Malik Rose and taken his minutes away.
All right, Craig. Tony Parker now 5 for 10, 11 points. Kings up by 7. They double up on Stojakovic. Miller getting it down low to Divac.
There's that passing ability of Brad Miller again, and it's interesting to watch Sacramento. They put their big guys out on the perimeter so often that the floor is always spread. It's open for cutters and for passes to the hoop.
Christie over to help on Duncan. Shot clock down to 5. Good defense by the Kings. Stojakovic with Parker back.
You see that what Sacramento's done by going after Duncan is they've come after him hard. They're making him pull the ball back behind his head, and as a result, he's not able to spin face in and see the other part of the court. They're keeping him off balance, taking away his base. It's been very effective.
Duncan is fouled. Foul on Divac.
And I think the way for Tim Duncan to combat that defense that Sacramento is playing is to go quickly before the double comes, because Sacramento is waiting till he puts it on the floor. If he waits and just tries to read the defense, nothing's happening. Whereas if he gets good position, catches the ball, and goes right to the rim, the double team doesn't get there quick enough.
One other thing they can do, Steve, is they're coming and trapping him with cutters. People that cut past him, the defender then comes back and gets him. They can spot their people up, hold them right there in position. Now Duncan sees everybody in front of him.
Duncan only a 59% free throw shooter. He's now 1 of 3 on the night. Greg Popovich telling us earlier there have been so many games where just an average performance at the foul line would have given us a win. He said if we were average at the line, we'd have 8 or 9 more victories. Oh, what a move by Bibby, but he's turned back.
And how about Popovich's comment to his team? He said, guys, not only are we 29th in the league, we're way 29th in the league.
Tony Parker's had the hot hand. Kings 56 and the Spurs 48.
Marv, there are a number of players on this floor for both teams who have played a lot of consecutive seasons of basketball. What I mean is not only the NBA seasons, deep into the NBA season, but then they've played for their respective national teams. Tony Parker, a guy who I think it may have taken its toll a little bit on him. I think he's running low on energy right now.
Yes, both these franchises with an international flavor, so many of their players have competed in worldwide competition. Duncan.
I actually think That's the way Tim Duncan can get himself involved, is they're trying to take him away initially. He's going to have to be assertive on the offensive boards, kick it out, flash back in, repost up once again, get him a little deeper in the lane so they can't come and get him.
21 points, 12 rebounds for Duncan. Miscommunication between Divac.
You can see right away in this second half the Spurs have been much more physical with Sacramento, something that Greg Popovich talked about this afternoon. He said you can't let them make their cuts and just pass the ball at will. You've got to be physical, get into their bodies, and that's what San Antonio has done so far here in the third quarter.
Parker sets the three. And Christie able to come up with it. Miller's pass was deflected. Ginobili with nowhere to go, but he drew the foul.
You gotta love Manu Ginobili, though. You're absolutely right, Marv. He had nowhere to go, which frequently happens, but Ginobili is so athletic. He finds a way to go. Slashing between two defenders, drawing the foul.
Foul on Brad Miller. That is his third. Manu Ginobili, born and raised in Argentina. Last season got off to a slow start because of an ankle injury and then came on strong with dynamic play, particularly in the postseason.
An ankle injury that took place in the World Championships. Another example of that extra season after the NBA season ends. What happens to a lot of these players now with their respective countries? It's more practices, it's more wear and tear on the bodies.
Here's Bibby with the runner. Duncan. Rebound number 13.
Mike, I agree with you, and I think one of the things that NBA teams are going to start doing is just taking the blame and telling these players you're not allowed to play in international competition anymore.
Nesterovic with a driving hook. And the Spurs open up strong in the third quarter. It leads to a Sacramento timeout. 8:01 for San Antonio. They are within three.
You've got to do that and then play an 82-game NBA schedule.
But to go back what you said, Steve, if NBA teams start putting clauses in there that you can't play, what happens to the Olympic team? How do you get your national team together when basically all the guys play in the NBA?
Oh, Divac off the lead from Miller. On the subject of international flavor, Vlade Divac has extended the Kings lead to 58-53.
Beautiful setup on the out-of-bounds play by Rick Adelman. Of course, wonderful passing center in Brad Miller.
And that is a kickball. They'll reset the clock. It's down to 5. Now reset at 14. Kings have led by as many as 13. Spurs led by 11 in the opening minutes. Bowen had trouble getting it inbounds. Shot clock to 4. Parker.
The one thing you saw that time that Ginobili does, and it comes to him automatically, when teams start rotating, when they're scrambling, double teaming, and rotating, instead of catching it and holding it, he took it right into the heart of the defense by putting it on the floor.
Stojakovic trying to switch hands on that shot and then lost it. It'll be San Antonio back in possession. Coming up on 6 minutes remaining in the third quarter. It's a 5-point lead for the Kings. Bowen, yes. Bruce Bowen showing he can hit from 2-point range. Usually likes to set up from downtown territory in the right or left corner.
And San Antonio picking up its execution in the half court, starting to run a little bit better cuts, getting better shots.
Bibby from downtown. What an effortless shot by Mike Bibby from deep in the corner.
It's amazing to watch this team because from every position on the floor, they have shooters. And that's why when they spread the floor, you're just in trouble if you have to help anywhere defensively.
Here's Ginobili. That was a 3-point attempt. It's a 3-on-1 led by Bibby. Christie from Bibby.
A great feed by Bibby, and Christie, of course, with the ability to finish.
San Antonio will take a timeout. The Kings up by 8 with 5:05 to go here in the third.
See a little 2-on-1 execution. The shuffle pass, the finish by Doug Christie.
Rim. Tim Duncan too late. All of a sudden here, Divac cuts to the rim, gets an easy basket, and now here's Miller again showing his passing ability. When you put the big man out on the perimeter, all of a sudden the entire floor is spread. And this is something that most NBA teams do not do. They like to put the ball down on the block for their big men, which clogs up the lane a little bit. But this Kings team, obviously, with some great passing players.
And they average 27 assists per game, which is #1 in the league. It's wonderful to watch a good passing ball play.
It is a joy to watch the Sacramento Kings play basketball. It'll be very interesting to see when they get Weber back, how they can fit him back into the lineup and continue their strong run.
We're talking with Rick Adelman about that subject. Brad Miller has played very well, subbing for Chris Weber, averaging 15 points, 11 rebounds. So who will sit down, Vlade Divac or Brad Miller? But the guessing is that it would be Miller who then would come off the bench. Stojakovic is rejected. Nesterovic on the block. Here comes Parker putting the speed on. Tony Parker accelerates and goes to the left hand. So the Kings now lead 63-57.
Marv, the Spurs have to have those fast break points to be able to compete. Otherwise, they're just relying on Tim Duncan the entire game in the half-court setting.
Here's Christie, try to go glass. Parker and Ginobili in the backcourt. Duncan, Bowen, Nesterovic up front. 4 minutes to go in the third quarter. Duncan. Oh, what a move. Brad Miller did all he could.
And Duncan sensed that Christie was tracking him down from behind. Christie was waiting for him to turn back. Duncan did it before Christie could get to him and close the trap.
23 for Tim Duncan. And it's a 4-point game. Stojakovic for 3. Bowen got there late. Bowen usually does a very good job defensively on Stojakovic.
Is that the same spot that Bibby just hit another huge 3 for him a couple of minutes ago?
And Divac is like a card shark, just wheeling and dealing.
Nice box out by Miller. Sacramento in possession. They lead by 7. Miller, yes, set up beautifully by Bibby.
Well, and that's why they can be such good passers, too, because they can shoot. When you can do multiple things on the floor opens up. Basketball becomes a much easier game.
Nesterovic.
You know, when you think about it for Sacramento, when Weber comes back, and you cut it down to playoff numbers in the rotation, Songaila, Massenberg, those guys all sit on the bench, okay? Then you go with 3 men rotating up front, Miller, Divac, and Weber.
Bibby has the stroke going, coming off a spectacular game last night in Houston. 11 of 18, 28 points at 3 from three-point territory, 3 tonight, and he has 15 points in all. Kings up by 10. Ginobili, once again, he got himself in trouble and lost it.
Well, that's his weakness as a player. You know, he's so explosive and dynamic, but he's prone to making mistakes like that, which just drive Greg Popovich crazy. I think his evolution as a player the next few years will involve cutting down on the mistakes without giving up that daring style that he uses.
That's 5 turnovers for Manu Ginobili.
He's aggressive, he's creative, but he gets himself in trouble sometimes with nowhere to go.
Oh, beautiful pass, Bibby, from Divac, who found him on a hop.
You have got to put pressure on Vlade Divac and Miller. Both of those big men, you've got to smother them. It can't be token-handed on pressure. It's got to be aggressive pressure to take away their passing lanes.
Vlade Divac with assist number 7. Ginobili cannot convert. Here comes Jackson. Bibby to the fadeaway.
He was feeling that was just a heat check.
Duncan very close to a traveling violation. And last touched by Divac. Malik Rose, Hedo Turkoglu checking back in.
Most passes come from up on top. Watch where this pass comes. Watch the ball in Divac's hands. Low, down below the hip actually of the defenders, where he dropped the ball on the floor for the easy 2 points.
Vladdy's an artist, isn't he? I mean, he sees the game in a different way.
Maybe his name was Prince at one time. He's an artist.
The artist formerly known as Vladdy?
Yes.
Oh, please. I know Czar had an early flight, but there's no excuse. Duncan able to go glass. And the Kings now lead 73-63. The Kings hero of the first half, Darius Singaila, has come back on. Here is Stojakovic from downtown. Parker with the step. Parker, Tony Parker with the hesitation move. And a very strong game for Parker. 8 of 16. He has 17 points. Sacramento by 8 with a half minute left in the third. Stojakovic rejected by Duncan. Parker pulls it back. And an offensive foul away from the ball. Rose trying to clear it out. Is called for the block. Steve Javie making the call. So the ball back to the Kings with 20 seconds left of the half.
Such a huge play because Tony Parker makes the right decision here to pull it back out for the last shot. And Malik Rose finds himself in the wrong place, but that shouldn't be a foul, should it, Mike?
I think Rose was set, and basically Bibby ran into him trying to defend. I'm not sure. Maybe he moved, but I couldn't see it from that angle.
Well, especially when the play doesn't affect anything. Parker's pulling the ball back out.
Here's Jackson. Jackson with the air ball. We're down to 1 4/10 seconds remaining in the third quarter.
Well, Steve, you said it didn't affect anything. When you find yourself laying on your back, is that being affected?
All right, Duncan put it on the floor and scores. It is waved off, and they will review it. Well, I know Tim Duncan likes to go glass, but usually not from that range.
I think it's very easy to see there that the red light on the backboard is lit up while the ball is still in his hand, so this is an easy decision that it was no good.
They still will check the videotape, but as it came too late, they did review it, and there was no question. Time had expired in the third quarter, so that bank shot will not count. And then 2 games back, they lost by 1 in Milwaukee. Watch this. Tim Duncan's dunk, which would have given the Spurs the win, ruled to have come just after the buzzer, and they lost to the Bucks.
You see the Spurs team celebrating there, but the officials went to the replay and found that right there, the light's on. So Spurs lose that one and lose another bucket here tonight. Tim Duncan obviously not a fan of instant replay these days.
Although this one would have been, no question, waved off. It's been an interesting stretch for San Antonio. 3 games back last Saturday against New Orleans. They lost on a last-second shot by Darrell Armstrong with a second and a half left.
And the game before that, they beat Phoenix with a shot from Tony Parker with 3 seconds left. So a bunch of close games for San Antonio recently.
Charlie Ward played briefly in the first half, has come on for Tony Parker. Rose with Duncan and Bowen up front. Good pressure by the Kings. Shot clock to 6. Here's Duncan. Anthony Peeler is back. Remember, the Sacramento bench did an excellent job in the second quarter. And Rick Adelman has Tony Massenberg, Bobby Jackson, and Anthony Peeler out there. Here is Stojakovic way off, rebounded by Ward.
Bowen's done a great job tonight of staying in Stojakovic's body.
Ward fires one up. And last touch by the Kings.
Charlie Ward actually did a good thing. He didn't think he was going to make that. He was just hoping to bang it off the glass and that Tim Duncan would be there to follow back up and tip it in.
Opening minute, fourth quarter, the Kings 73, the Spurs 65. Marv Albert with the czar, Mike Fratello, Steve Kerr, Craig Sager. We're at the SBC Center in San Antonio. Two of the best in the NBA, the Spurs and the Kings, and it's been a good ball game. Here's Rose. Massenberg able to come away with it. How about Tony Massenberg? With many changes of address, he's played now for 12 NBA teams in 12 years. Stojakovic, a 3 for Pedro.
I think Tony's motto is rent, don't buy. Now, did he break the record? I know Chucky Brown used to hold the record for most teams played for in a career. I believe Massenberg now has the record.
We have our research staff working on it.
Jimmy Jackson was in that race, by the way.
Yeah.
He is, I believe, 10 teams in 12 years. Here's Duncan. Massenberg points out that he did play with 4 teams in the 91-92 season, 3 of which came on 10-day contracts.
Oh, so it's not nearly as bad as it sounded.
Singala, that's his first miss.
You know, it is a sign of respect, though, that people know that you must be a solid citizen, that you can contribute to the team aspect of the thing. So that's why they keep picking him up.
Well, he's good enough, obviously, to play for all these teams, so he is wanted.
Cesar, you're saying if you were constantly losing your job, you would look at it from a positive point of view. As Bowen knocks down the 3, you would say that, well, it's just a case of a lot of people being interested in me.
When one person shuts the door on you, when you go to the next team, it's just another door opening up.
Rose with the hustle. Singala called for a backcourt violation. He stepped into the backcourt. And the ball back to San Antonio.
What Rick Adelman is talking about here, we have to split. Mark, take some of those teams for me.
Well, there are the 12 teams of Tony Massenberg. He has made the rounds. He's also played in Spain and Italy.
I hope he got to keep his frequent flyer miles. I know that.
Rick Adelman upset about that last backcourt violation. Here's Bowen for 3. Yes! San Antonio is within 3 by virtue of an 8-0 run, and Bobby Jackson calls for time.
Well, with Tim Duncan out of the lineup, Spurs making a run thanks to shots like this from Bruce Bowen.
Round and hits a 3-pointer.
And the Spurs 5 of 8 from downtown. Bowen has hit a couple here in the fourth quarter. Sacramento by 3. Miller. Here is Peeler. Once again, the nice setup. Miller with his 5th assist. 22 assists on 31 field goals for the Kings.
And only 8 turnovers, so excellent offensive execution.
Ginobili for 3. Yes! And they're on fire from downtown.
Notice what Rick Adelman is doing during this run against his second unit. He has left both starting big men on the floor. Divac and Miller both out there while he rests some of his perimeter guys. Then when he brings a couple of the perimeter guys back in, he'll probably rest the big men one at a time.
Foul on Ward, his first. Peeler lost it, able to recover. Shot clock to 7. Jackson for 3. It has become a 3-point festival. San Antonio 3 of 3 from downtown here in the fourth. I'm looking for Steve Kerr to hit a couple here in the fourth quarter. And the foul. It is on Divac.
This is the matchup that Adelman doesn't want to get too often. But how about this guy? He comes in, he just puts his head down, decides he's going to make something happen from somewhere on the floor. That time it was from behind the 3-point line. Bobby Jackson.
81-76 Sacramento, just under 8 remaining in the fourth quarter. Duncan Rose with the rebound. And that pass thrown away. Duncan felt he was held. And you can see upset that there was not a call.
Vlade Divac does that as well as any center in the league. He'll grab you, and he'll make it look like he didn't.
And at the other end, Duncan picks up his second.
Watch if somebody grabs you on the... Right there you see Vlade grabs his right wrist, so Tim can't reach out and catch the pass. You don't see Duncan get that upset.
That's crafty right there. Last year I would have called it dirty, but now that I'm behind the mic, it's crafty.
Amazing how your vocabulary can change.
That's right.
Shot clock at 8. Divac double teamed and lost it. And Duncan run into by Miller and a foul. Foul is called on the Kings.
Vlade wants to lay it down behind, but he bounces it off Duncan's ankles. Then you see Miller and Duncan going after, and that's many times how you get a serious injury. One guy goes after it, lands on the other player's ankle. Tim Duncan, very fortunate there wasn't an injury in that.
Yeah, a collective sigh of relief in the SBC Center when Tim Duncan got up off the floor.
Number 4 on Brad Miller. And the foul on a reach-in on Divac. Kings with their third team foul. That's a non-shooting affair.
And they could find themselves in the penalty here pretty quickly, but of course Spurs are a bad foul shooting team. They might not even want to be in the penalty.
And now Sacramento has to decide who takes Duncan. 4 fouls on Miller, 4 fouls on Divac. So who do you want to put the 5th one on first?
Ward had nowhere to go and try to spin his way on Divac. Here's Bibby getting the step. Peeler. And he was hacked. Hit from behind by Turkoglu. And that will be a shooting foul. Anthony Peeler will head to the line.
It's been a nice addition to this Sacramento team. Very popular player in the locker room. Excellent shooter. And a veteran player who knows how to play in crunch time.
Anthony Peeler spent the last 5.5 years with the Timberwolves, signed as a free agent, then 4 years with the Lakers, originally a #1 pick by the Lakers back in 1992. Tomorrow night on ESPN, it'll be the Hornets and the Sixers, 7 o'clock Eastern Time. On ESPN2, it's the Cavs and the Bucks at 9:30 Eastern Time. Saturday at 7:30 on NBA TV, the Suns and the Knicks. And on Sunday, February 8th, 12:30 p.m. Eastern Time on ABC, it's the Lakers and the Magic. Turkoglu for 3. Ginobili able to get to it. Turkoglu eluding Bibby. Jackson lost it. Turkoglu was on it.
Malik Rose stuck the hand in there, knocked it free.
Just under 6 minutes remaining in the 4th quarter. San Antonio with the ball down by 6. See Peeler cheating over to help. Parker. Rose on the rebound. Malik Rose doing a nice job here in this 4th quarter.
See what's happening. They're hitting Duncan and spotting up now like we talked about before. No cuts the last time down.
Parker trying to go behind the back. Here's Jackson with Ginobili back. Jackson. Bobby Jackson with a circus shot. And the Kings now lead 84-76.
Ginobili does a great job of hustling back and taking away the angle to the basket on the long outlet pass. And then Bobby Jackson finds a creative way of going underneath, reversing it up, and completing the basket. This is not an easy basketball shot. Ahead of everyone else to get the easy layup. It started right here. Watch Malik Rose come up. He's sneaking up behind to set a screen on the defender, Bobby Jackson. Well, as he sets the screen, Jackson hits the deck. While he's on the floor, San Antonio keeps playing. Jackson gets up, runs down to the other end of the floor, and then is the recipient of the Miller long outlet, and then avoids Ginobili to complete the play.
How about the spectacular finish by Bobby Jackson? Little dynamo.
Took that from one of your highlight reels, didn't he?
I did that on my Nerf hoop at home once. That was about it.
Coming up on 5 minutes remaining in the fourth quarter. San Antonio now down by 8. Here is Duncan. Yes. 29 points for Duncan. This is the second of our TNT doubleheader. Earlier, New Jersey winning at Orlando 89-79. So interim head coach Lawrence Frank now 2-0. Nets have won 3 straight. Foul on Parker, his third. How about Jason Kidd? 33 points, 15 of 27 from the field, 10 rebounds, 8 assists. Tracy McGrady, only 6 of 20. He had 22. Winner of the game tonight in the NBA. Portland made it 3 straight wins, defeating Atlanta 93-85. Here is Divac. Beautiful move. The ball fake, the turn, and he's able to knock it down. So he has 9 points. 86-78, Sacramento. In this, the first of 4 meetings on the season. Last season, Spurs took 3 of 4, and one of the keys, the job that Bruce Bowen was able to do on Peja Stojakovic. Here's Bibby. He lost it. Ginobili able to take it away. Tonight, Stojakovic has 21 points. But Sacramento getting a terrific effort from their bench, in particular in the second quarter, that helped turn things around. Shot clock down to 7. Duncan, yes.
Tim Duncan is amazing. 31 points and 16 boards. He does it every night, and you almost just fall asleep watching it because he just does it so effortlessly.
He's 15 of 25 from the field. You're saying Tim puts you to sleep?
No, you said that.
Shot clock to 5. Jackson for Divac, rejected by Duncan. That's his third block.
He also stopped the layup by Bobby Jackson and came back and got it.
And pass. Rose trying to get it back to Duncan.
And Mike, I have been impressed with Sacramento's defense tonight. I know you're going to get on me here a little bit, but they have really done a job on this Spurs offense all night.
You and Mark, I mean, you're entitled to mistakes, both of you.
Jackson for 3. Bobby Jackson with some big buckets here in this fourth quarter. How about the Kings? 6 of 7 from beyond that 3-point line in the second half.
Normally when you are at home, you're making a comeback and the crowd gets into it, you then rely upon your defense getting stops. But this team shoots it so well, they've made just 4 or 5 huge shots to keep this lead for Sacramento.
Ginobili for 3. And both clubs on fire from downtown. In the fourth quarter, 89-83. Sacramento with 2.5 to go in the fourth.
And if San Antonio is going to win, they've got to make stops. They're the best defensive team in the league. Let's see if they can shut down Sacramento here in the last couple minutes.
Maybe not getting the bounce. Rebounded by Rose. Both teams have their 2 full timeouts and a 20 remaining. Rose. The rare shot by Rose, able to follow it up, but Jackson too quick and came up with the loose ball.
I know Rose was wide open. You got to take wide open shots, but one more pass to his left. He had Ginobili, who had just hit a 3, standing by the 3-point line once again.
It's a tough shot to make, too, when you haven't played a whole lot lately.
Shot clock to 4. Bibby changed his mind. Divac, yes! A huge shot for the 35-year-old Vlade Divac.
Everywhere, I'm sorry, everywhere you look on the floor, Marv, there's somebody who can make a big shot for the Kings. They're very difficult to cover.
Kings now lead at 91-83. Well, Rose shoots again.
Malik, stop making those breaks.
Malik Rose missing 2 wide-open jumpers. Down to 1:20 remaining in the fourth. Shot clock down to 2. Here's Miller for 3. Back comes Ginobili. Spurs Spurs having difficulty locating a shot. Duncan. 91-85. Sacramento. Just under 1 minute remaining. Ginobili on the steal. Here comes Rose, and this time is able to start.
Both teams have 2 timeouts on the 20 left. We'll see if Sacramento uses one here. They elect 2. They'll set it up to get it in. Little trap, anticipation, a rotation up. Ginobili immediately pitches it ahead.
4-point Sacramento lead. San Antonio, how do you play it here?
You do not foul right now. You can dig in, you get a defensive stop because then you push right into transition. If you score and it's a 2-point game, you have plenty of time, depending on the score, to either play good defense again or then foul at the end. Remember, this is the second best free throw shooting team in the NBA.
3 team fouls for San Antonio, 3 for Sacramento.
And Marv, if they were going to foul, they had it in the hands of the guy you wanted to foul. That's Divac. He's just a 60-something% free throw shooter.
Jackson, he's been hot. Bobby Jackson from downtown, and he has been on fire, plus a foul.
Well, these are one of those times that you start second-guessing. After the ball's out of his hands, Bruce Bowen goes right to the hand. I mean, this is hand-on-hand right at the end, and he pulls Bobby Jackson down as the ball goes in. A possible 4-point play.
Sacramento, 7 of 8 from downtown in the second half. So Jackson with a 4-point play. He has scored 18 points and a timeout called by San Antonio. 95-87. The Kings looking for a rare victory here in San Antonio. Jackson has scored 12 of Sacramento's last 17 points. 12 of his 18 have come here in the fourth quarter.
And how about that last shot from the corner? Spurs with an excellent defensive possession, rotating, putting pressure on the shot with Bowen there. Jackson knocks it down and draws the foul, pretty much putting this thing out of reach.
29.1 remaining on the fourth. The Kings 95 and the Spurs 87.
If, according to interpretation, if hand of the defensive man hits hand of the offensive man, whether the ball is in there or not, it is not supposed to be a foul. That's what I have been told, at least by officials. So that right there is a very difficult call. Not that it may have made a difference in the outcome of the game. It was just a great shot, but you could see his hit hand on hand.
On Bowen in bounds. Ginobili looking for the quick bucket, and Duncan gets it. So Tim Duncan with 35. You see pressure by San Antonio. It's a 6-point game. And that will put the Spurs over the foul limit. So the Kings will go to the line.
Spurs were doing everything they could not to foul Stojakovic, but he did a good job of just taking the ball, dribbling it up court, and forcing the foul.
And Page is 6 for 6 at the line. The NBA's best free throw shooter, 92%.
This is what I was going back to. Watch the hand on top of the hand now. Hand, that's hand on hand. You can't get much clearer than that. And hand on hand, based on what I've been told, asking officials, whether the ball's in there and you hit the top of a guy's hand or whether the ball's not in there is not a foul.
Well, officials always told me that if the ball was out of my hand, the guy was allowed to hit my hand after the release.
And Tony Parker will head to the line. Took a poke in the eye, foul on Jackson.
I guess, Steve, that's because their interpretation is hand is part of the ball. That's the thinking on that, that if the ball is in there and the guy hits the top of your hand, that it's not a foul that way.
I think the interpretation is that if it's been released, then a hand-on-hand won't affect the shot anyway.
But see, I've always disagreed that if the ball's in the shooter's hand and they hit the hand from the side, you can't tell me that's not affecting the shot.
I'm with you. I think that should be called a foul, but the interpretation sometimes is different.
Why don't you guys take this back to the hotel? Oh, no, Steve Litt's here.
And I'm definitely not inviting him back to the house. So this will have to be a phone call sometime.
Kings 96, Spurs 91, 11 seconds to go. Ginobili went down, crowd looking for a foul. And this will wrap it. The Sacramento Kings, with the best record in the West, go to 32-12, 11-9 on the road. Terrific effort by Rick Alderman and his team. And on the 6-game trip, 3-2, a very difficult trip. This completes the Texas triangle. They lost in Dallas, they win in Houston, they win here in San Antonio. The Spurs now 30-18. And they have lost 3 of their last 4. They're 0-7 now against Lakers, Dallas, Minnesota, and Sacramento. Tim Duncan, the high man, with 35 points. Peja Stojakovic with 22. 17 for Mike Bibby. Let's go to Craig Sager.
Well, Vladdy, nearly a triple-double tonight. 11 points, 9 rebounds, 9 assists after playing last night against Yao Ming. Did you think you had it in tonight?
Well, we saw our opportunity, especially in the first half. You know, the team had a great first quarter. We tried to stop them. We did in the second half. Continued to play well.
This is the 18th time you've led this team in assists. When you're out there, you have Tim Duncan guarding you. What do you see? How do you see the floor so well?
Well, they know. I mean, my teammates, they know they like to pass the ball, so they run the offense very well. Try to cut too many times, pop for the shots. Obviously, a lot of credit to them, you know, because they're knocking shots down, and that's how I got assists.
Tim Duncan thought you were holding him for a while. Steve Kerr mentioned when he used to play against you, he thought you were dirty. But now that he is sitting on the sideline and he's unbiased, he says that you are crafty, sneaky, and a card shark, and you're wheeling and dealing. He has new admiration for you.
I agree. I try to do everything possible to win the games. So, we'll see.
Well, 31 minutes last night, 33 tonight. Obviously, you played very well, but how much you miss Chris Webber?
Well, obviously, you know, to go to the next level, we definitely need Chris, you know, especially myself. If I'm playing too many minutes, 36 years old, I got to cut those minutes down to be fresh for the playoffs.
36, you're only 35.
Well, in 1 week, it's going to be 36, February 3rd.
Okay, well, happy birthday in advance.
All right, Craig debating Vladdy's age. And here comes Vladdy over to say hello to Steve and say, why did you call me a card shark?
I thought that was a good thing.
All right.
But he's crafty. I call him crafty. That's nice.
All right. Final score, Sacramento 96, San Antonio 91. Thanks to our producer, Scooter Vertino, our director, Renardo Lowe, associate director, Lisa Smith, and our production assistants, Jeff Paris, Tim McDermott, our statistician, Brian Taylor. Next week on TNT NBA Thursday, Lakers and Sixers, followed by the Spurs and the Sonics. Coming up next, Inside the NBA, presented by Hyundai. For the Czar, Mike Fratello, Steve Kerr, Craig Sager. This is Marv Albert saying good night from San Antonio, Texas. You're watching TNT, the exclusive home of the 2004 NBA All-Star Game. Good.
Washington, a good look at Kier.